Halo may include injection site reactions. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart.
My
come from?
all the stories that he's been able to hand me throughout the years, for me to hand him that information, you don't get that moment every day.
Itch, itch, scratch, must not itch.
Stop the itch sanity with Cortisone 10 for bug bites, poison ivy, and other itches. Cortisone 10 is #1 doctor recommended. It works fast and lasts for hours. Cortisone 10.
If you have Graves' disease and itchy eyes, the truth may be even more uncomfortable. People with Graves could also get thyroid eye disease, or TED, which may need a different doctor. Find a TED eye specialist at isitted.com.
Somebody would ask her something and she would just walk right past them because she didn't know they were talking to her.
I just could not hear. I was hesitant to get the hearing aids because of my short hair, but nobody even sees them.
Our nearly invisible hearing aids are just one reason we've been the brand leader for over 75 years.
When I finally could hear for the first time, I could hear everything.
Call Miracle Ear at 1-800-234-7090 and schedule your free hearing evaluation today.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine.
Well, she doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Even a term policy? Even a term policy!
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-461-8800 or visit coventrydirect.com.
Clogged gutters can cause big problems fast. Until now. Call 833-LEAF Filter today for your free gutter inspection.
I've had terrible flooding problems on my porch. Now I understand why.
Right now, Leaf Filter is offering a free inspection on your schedule. Leaf Filter is a permanent gutter solution, so you never have to worry about costly damage from clogged gutters again.
Call us today and schedule your free inspection.
To schedule your free inspection, call 833-LEAF Filter today or visit leaffilter.com.
I'm Sunlen Sirfati in Washington, and this is CNN.
Any minute now, the jury will return to a Manhattan courtroom following a quick recess. Red flag by red flag, Donald Trump's attorneys tried to pin the blame for an alleged hush money cover-up scheme on Michael Cohen and Michael Cohen alone. We've been tracking this important testimony this morning from inside the former president's hush money trial. And banker Gary Farrow, after 2 hours and 7 minutes, has finished his testimony, confirming that he has never spoken to Donald Trump. He is now off the stand. CNN reporters who were also in the courtroom as all of this was happening, as the judge notified Donald Trump that, yes, he did find him in criminal contempt of his gag order, fining him $9,000 as a result of that. I'm here outside of that courthouse with CNN's chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed, and also former Manhattan District Attorney Prosecutor Karen Agnifilo-Friedman, who is of counsel, I should note, to a firm that represents Michael Cohen, but she doesn't have any contact with him, doesn't work on his case, and no restrictions on what she can say about it. We also are joined by Adam Kaufman, a former executive assistant district attorney at the Manhattan DA's office. And Adam, let me start with you on what we've been watching this morning and who we believe could potentially be next on the witness stand now that Gary Farrow has finished his testimony.
Yeah, so, prosecutors have been really sort of playing it close to the vest as to who they're going to call next. They've expressed concern that witnesses get identified, on social media by Donald Trump. So they really, typically in a trial, you share your witnesses. The prosecution would share their witnesses, certainly for the day. And here, prosecutors have been much more reserved. So, it's hard to know who's going to come up next for the prosecution.
And what do you make of what the judge did decide while we're waiting to see who is the next witness on the witness stand in this gag order? Because, he had quite a blistering statement there at the end saying, yeah, I'm fining him $9,000, but these $1,000 fines don't have the same weight when someone can easily pay them, and the court doesn't have the discretion to make that fine higher than $1,000.
it's frustrating when you have statutes that were written so long ago with penalties that were set so long ago that don't really, it's not really much of a penalty, to be honest. But at the same time, I think what's important here is that Judge Merchan, he set some rules, he made an order, the order was violated, and he held Donald Trump accountable for those violations. So Judge Merchan has really sort of set a marker. He's laid down the law, if you will, and I think the Trump team has to know that in addition to fines, there's the possibility of jail. There's the possibility of sort of interim measures where someone could be forced to attend the trial from a side room. Not typically done. But I think the important thing for Judge Merchan is he has set down the law. He's made it clear that he won't tolerate anyone disobeying his orders, and that's significant unto itself, holding accountability for a judge's orders.
Yeah, Adam Kaufman, stand by. It's great perspective on that, and also we know the judge here did say, Paula Reed, that if a violation continues, and we know there's another hearing on this on Thursday, that jail time could be an option.
It's really astonishing. We're talking about, possible jail time for a former president of the United States. Logistically, symbolically, what that would mean. I mean, that is a grave threat. But let's see if the former president heeds it. We know that there are a lot of conservative pundits who have advocated to him that maybe you should stop violating the gag order, use your airtime, use all this attention to campaign and get a message across to voters. And at least over the past few days, that is what we have seen him do. He's also found sort of a workaround, yet another one, this time having allies on the Hill make the arguments about this case, about the prosecution, about the judge that Trump can. Well, he can make comments about the judge, but he appears to want to have his allies on Capitol Hill make these arguments, as some of them would be a violation of the gag order. Let's see if he sticks with that and keeps campaigning, or if he reverts back.
But Karen, the issue here is, Trump, in a way, from what we've heard, would relish having jail time imposed on him by this judge, because he would be able to use it. I don't think anyone thinks Trump actually wants to go to jail, despite any bravado that we see publicly, but he could use it politically as a tool.
Yeah, well, this trial has a political aspect to it as well as a justice aspect to it. And the judge here really can only focus on the justice aspect of it and getting a verdict, whatever it may be, at the finish line. The political aspect really can't be considered by anyone in that courtroom.
And Paula, we're getting an update right now. I should note, there's no witness on the stand, and the jury is not inside of the courtroom right now. But what we are hearing is that there are discussions happening between prosecutors, Trump's attorney, and the judge. And prosecutors are arguing to get some text message into evidence as the jury is out on the break. I mean, they have these conversations outside of the earshot of the jury, and then it's a decision whether or not the jury can hear them later on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So here prosecutors want to get some text messages in as evidence, but they need to make the decision outside of the jury so as not to prejudice them, especially if the text messages aren't allowed in. But I think a really important point is one that Karen made earlier, which is a lot of the witnesses that we heard at the end of Friday that we expect to hear today, and this is all about moving evidence in. This is about sort of validating paperwork. A lot of this could have been stipulated, so it's unclear why the Trump team is insisting on using up so much time to get a lot of this evidence in when it could be stipulated to you. But there are always going to be some issues that they can't agree on, so the judge is going to have to decide about these text messages. We don't know what they are, but if they're allowed in, we will.
I mean, and what's the significance of the jury being able, as they're hearing from bankers, they're hearing complex things about, maybe some of them have taken down a home equity line of credit and are familiar with that, but they're hearing these efforts to go and get bank accounts, LLCs, and then not actually funding them in this, but then also being able to see the text messages themselves between people like Stormy Daniels, which we should note that's what this evidence that they would like to have entered into the record is. Prosecutors want to get messages from Stormy Daniels' then publicist to the AMI executive, Dylan Howard. We know he's been at the center of all of this. And they want to be able to get them into the record because they believe they'll help contextualize other messages. It all goes back to the narrative that they're trying to paint here.
Yeah, things like emails, text messages, things that are contemporaneous with the time that these things happen are great corroboration of witness testimony that is relying on things like memory that can fade over time, or if the cross-examination of a witness calls into question their credibility, you like to have that kind of contemporaneous exchanges that reinforce that.
What about this, where prosecutors are saying that and this is Matthew Colangelo, one of the prosecutors that Trump was attacking repeatedly before the gag order was expanded, if Trump does get on the stand, if he does get up there and testify, they want to be able to use the gag order violations during the cross-examination. What would be the point of prosecutors doing that?
So what Matt Colangelo is doing right now is he's essentially asking the judge to revisit his Sandoval ruling. And Sandoval is the case that you have to ask permission in advance. What are the prior bad acts that you want to be able to cross-examine the defendant about if he should take the stand? And that's where the defense will weigh the judge will weigh the probative value versus the prejudicial effect. And I think Colangelo wants to bring in the gag order violations because, A, the judge found beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump did violate the gag order, that it was willful, that he did it intentionally and on purpose. And it shows that he puts his own interests above that of what someone else will tell him. And that's essentially what goes to the heart of what committing a crime is, right? When you're charged with a crime, what you're saying to the jury, what you're arguing to the jury is this is an individual who will put their interest over that of society's. They will break the law and say what I want is more important. And really violating a gag order willfully beyond a reasonable doubt is essentially that same thing. And so it's a pretty powerful thing that you want to show the jury so that you can argue on summation that this is the kind of person who will put his own interests above that of society, and that's why you shouldn't believe him.
Paula?
Yeah, that would be incredibly difficult for the defense team if these are allowed in, because remember, at least one of the gag order violations was directed at the jury and possibly imperiling their safety. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, this will be a really significant issue if the judge allows this in. I mean, I would consider that an enormous loss for the defense and something that could really hurt his case here.
Well, and how would the jury, I mean, I think one question is how would they see Trump attacking these witnesses as they are set to get on the stand, and you are going to see them come forward and testify, and to be able to see that in hindsight, and they'd be able to ask Trump, about his post about Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels and others.
Speaking of, the prosecution says it wants to introduce evidence to show that the defendant's attempts to dissuade witnesses like Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels through a public pressure campaign and retaliation. Look, this issue was previewed in the defense's opening statement that they believe that Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen have made a lot of money off of either attacking Trump or because of their involvement with Trump. Now, the prosecutors go on to say that the defense opened the door to these arguments in their opening statement, criticizing Cohen and Daniels for saying their financial livelihoods depend on attacking the defendant. So the jury is going to see the whole Cohen, Daniels, Trump triangle play out through the prosecution's case and likely the defense as well. And I'm sure there's some jurors who may feel, yeah, it seems inherently unfair that Cohen can call you names we can't even repeat on TV, but you can't punch back. But again, it wasn't just Cohen and Daniels who he has attacked in violating the gag order.
That is, the jury may not see it in a sympathetic way to Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, or at least not all 12 of them. We don't know how they would see it, but they may see it as, well, these are people who are attacking Donald Trump. Donald Trump should be able to respond to them.
Exactly. It cuts both ways, and that's why the judge is going to weigh that and will decide which one. See, right there, he's saying the prosecutor says this would be evidence of Trump's consciousness of guilt, that he's going out and attacking these witnesses, and that's what the prosecutors want to argue. They want to be able to argue that this shows that he's guilty, right? Because that he knows that what he did was wrong, and they want to be able to make that argument.
Why are they arguing this now? I mean, why at this point in the trial? Is it because the judge just found this morning that Trump did violate the gag order and they now want to introduce that? Or?
I would expect, they needed to wait for the finding, and now that the judge has issued his finding on these gag order violations, they're bringing it up. It was pretty swift turnaround, I've got to say, on the prosecutor's part.
And Todd Blanche is saying he wants to know more about what prosecutors would plan to do to ask witnesses or ask Trump if he does get on the stand about these gag order violations.
Exactly. So that's exactly right. This is the reason they're doing this now is because of the gag order violations, but also what Colangelo said is that in the opening statements, Todd Blanche opened the door to some of these issues, meaning now they are relevant. Now we should be able to bring this up. Now this is something, Judge, I want you to reconsider your earlier ruling and let us put this information in.
Part of what Trump is, one of the violations was where he brought up, he said he